What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today I'll be doing my preview and prediction for Florida State versus LSU. Be taking place this Sunday night on ABC, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time from the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. 3-point line in favor of the Tigers, 51.5 over/under. All-time Florida State leads this series 7-2, and they won the last meeting all the way back in 1991. Previewing this Florida State offense, we got a quick glimpse of what they can do this past week here against an FCS opponent. And, it's a quick little glimpse into what they can accomplish, but overall doesn't tell you much. When they, absolutely throttled Duquesne by 40 points. Jordan Travis, though, at quarterback, good athlete, a very quick runner. He kind of reminds me of Malcolm Perry from Navy a couple years back with the size, the speed, the quick change of direction. A very respectable arm from Travis as well. The velocity isn't great, but he can hang it in the air and have it downfield. That's a very impressive part of his game, I'd say. It's pretty underrated. But he also keeps his eyes downfield at all times. That's where he's most dangerous because he's an impressive runner. And if he keeps his eyes downfield, throws it with confidence, then Jordan Travis, a lot of upside. Former Louisville transfer, has been around a little bit now. Florida State only had 201 passing yards per game last season, and they only had 232 against Duquesne. We didn't get to see a lot, only 14 completions. Kentron Pelletier, a third-year sophomore, got the step up around a lot of, new faces like Johnny Wilson, Micah Pittman, Winston Wright. We did not get to see in this contest. I'm not sure if he played or not, but he did not record a reception if he did. But those are all three transfers, though. I really like this group after this offseason. I think Mike Norvell is very happy with what he has. Pittman, he's mainly a special teams contributor, but he's still a vertical weapon who had 4 grabs for 44 yards against Duquesne. Winston Wright, of course, he didn't. I don't know what the status was with him, but he did lead West Virginia last season in yards and I believe receptions as well. Johnny Wilson at Arizona State didn't do much there in terms of production, but he can block. He's a nice red zone threat. 6'7", 230, a pretty big asset for this offense. That size is pretty ridiculous, and the ability to block in this offense is going to be accepted tremendously because Jordan Travis, like I said, he's a very good runner, but he's got a nice group of backs. All three of these guys had 100-plus yards against Duquesne, which obviously it's going to be a big struggle in this game, I think, to run the ball against a tough LSU defensive line. But Treshaun Ward, 5'10", 192, very fast, twitchy, makes minimal cuts, but he does a lot with them. Great vision. Travis and Ward, with their speed on the edge, I think you're going to see a lot of speed option in this game, a lot of read option as well, but I think getting to the edge is most important with those two guys. That's going to help offset, I think, the disadvantage they have against an LSU D-line is very good. Trey Benson, he only had 6 carries at Oregon, but, he had a handful of them this past week against Duquesne where he had 105 yards on 11 touches. He also had a touchdown. All these guys did very good. Lawrence Tafala as well. These guys were really putting it up. Even Rodney Hill, a freshman at the 4th string back at 55 yards. 406 yards, 6 touchdowns rushing against Duquesne. They really got the ground game going in that one. I think that's going to be the MO this season. Kind of like we expected, but I do like the potential the passing game has. Keyshawn Hilton, Ontario Wilson are still there. Longtime veterans, 175 pounds each. Those are the smaller guys. Jaquil Douglas, I don't believe he played. I think he's questionable for this Sunday. He's a gadget player. He can be a running back, a wide receiver. I think Mike Norvell really likes the skilled positions he has, and I think he's pretty happy with the quarterback as well. But the offensive line, they haven't been good in years, really. Promising left side, though. I like Dylan Gibbons. Robert Scott, a really good run blocker. He's going to continue to grow. Gibbons, I'd say he's pretty strong in that area as well. Bless Harris, a right tackle, transfer, physical and aggressive. The theme here in the offseason was to add some good run blocking help. They also picked up Caden Wiles from Wisconsin. He's out for the year due to an injury, but Norvell overall, this is a very promising offense. Very excited for them this year, and this matchup against LSU is going to be one that I'm looking forward to see what the potential is against these Power 5 opponents because I like what they have a receiver. Running back is very deep. Quarterbacks continue to grow. I think the offensive line has some impressive pieces as well. So overall, very happy with this Florida State offense. How effective and efficient can they be? That is going to be the big question. Mike Norvell coaching them up, though. I think the potential is high for them. Looking at the LSU offense, it's a two-way QB battle. Miles Brennan, he was not named the starter, so he opted to retire. I think he was just ready to move on with his life after back-to-back years of, pretty insane injuries that are pretty unlikely. Jaden Daniels, I believe, is going to be the starter. Brian Kelly said he's not going to announce a starter before this game. Kind of looking for a tactical advantage, he said. But regardless, I think Daniels is the favorite because he really fits what Mike Denbrock's looking for. At least that's what he had at Cincinnati for 4 years was Desmond Ridder. And Daniels is a very similar player to that. He's an impressive dual threat talent, nice athletic abilities. He never really showcased his potential really at Arizona State, never really improved there. A big opportunity for him. Now with the Tigers, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the other guy in that battle. Of course, they added 5-star Walker Howard, but I don't expect him to play much this year. Nussmeier is a probably high-end talent that LSU fans have been raving about, but I think Daniels, he'll be the starter here. He's the veteran. He's the better fit, at least at this moment in time. Just a great comparison to Desmond Ridder, and Den Brock, of course, worked with him. So I think that's why he gets the edge there. Tyrion Davis-Price, had 1,000 yards last year, but LSU only had 114 yards per game on the ground. But John Emery's back from athletic suspension. Noah Cain, an explosive, powerful guy, struggled with health last year. Also played for a poor running team. 106 carries for 350 yards. That's just terrible production. But the offensive line didn't really give him much breathing room. Cain has showcased before what he can do when he has just a little bit of help up front. Armani Goodwin, shifty cutback runner, slips through creases. We'll see who gets to go in the backfield. They got 3 respectable backs here, 114 yards per game. They should easily eclipse that mark, and I'd say, at least double it by half. 254 pass yards per game. That's 5th in the conference. Certainly missed Kayshon Boutte, but not as much as you'd think. They get back top 5 pass catchers from a season ago, and they also picked up Kyron Lacey, one of ULL's most productive pass catchers from the past 2 seasons. Great recruiting class last year, wide receiver. I'm going to pick up one new name this year from high school because they're really deep. Kayshon Boutte can play outside or in the slot, deadly in the open field. I like Brian Thomas. He's a 6'5" pass catcher who's really good with contested catches. Concentration and hands, those something I want to see him improve on. Malik Neighbors has that home run hitting speed. Dre Jenkins has been consistent. And Jack Beach, 6'2", 207, can be used in the slot, can be used as a tight end, some great hands. So even though the passing game was kind of underrated last year of how good it was, the balance this year for LSU I think is really going to be impressive. We'll see what Daniels can do with these weapons. But, man, they're really loaded here at the skilled positions. Brian Kelly worked his magic on the O-line at Notre Dame, and I think right now they have a little bit of everything on this unit. Some veterans, some freshmen, handful of transfers involved. It's a nice little versatile unit they have here. Offensive line struggled mightily in pass protection. Miles Frazier comes over from FIU. He's been rotating in at right tackle. Garrett Dellinger, a strong athletic guy who missed this spring. He's a key piece to the future of this unit, so we'll see who gets the nod at tackle. Tremont Shorts slots in from East Tennessee. He should be a starter at guard. I think Will Campbell, very impressive physical traits. Him and Frazier and Dellinger, those guys are all going to kind of battle for tackle positions. But I think overall the upside is pretty good with this O-line. I think short-term might struggle a good bit, but long-term I think they're going to do tremendous work, kind of like Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame. We'll see what happens in this game. The pass protection was not great, and they're still putting up some impressive numbers. So if they can block just, for a little bit better than they were last year, then I think Daniels or Nussmeier, if he starts, these guys are going to have plenty of time to work. The Florida State defense, they were much better last season than they were in 2020. They improved in all areas. The pass rush, the run and pass defense were much improved. 14 picks last year, all of them came by freshman or sophomore. It's very encouraging. Focusing on the pass rush, though, how are you going to replace Jermaine Johnson, who was a first-team All-American, and Kier Thomas? Derek McClendon, he has a high motor. He's strong, 6'4", 255. He was solid during his redshirt freshman season. Jared Verse, a highly wanted pass rusher from Albany, 10-plus sacks, an athletic, productive guy. He got involved a good bit against Duquesne this past Saturday. He had a tackle for a 1.5 tackles for loss. So Verse, this is a guy that a lot of people are high on, so we'll see what he can do in this contest because he's going to be expected to be one of the leaders. He had plenty of offers coming from Albany. Florida State got him, so he's going to come in, make an impact right away. At least that's the thought process here. Pretty deep on the interior D-line. I like Fabian Lovett. Some were shocked he came back, but he does to kind of lead a pretty disruptive and big interior D-line. Malcolm Ray is a good player. Robert Cooper, 6'5", 335. And then Jarrett Jackson, he's pretty disruptive. So I think you look at how poor the LSU offensive line was at times last year, and they have a pretty tough matchup here. I don't think it's a cakewalk by any means. If those guys play up to their potential, I think they could really kind of even things up in the trenches. Kalen DeLoach, he's back at linebacker. DJ Lundy was a good run defender for them. Tatum Bethune, 101 tackles at USCF last year. He comes over. He's going to be a leader here for them in the middle. He had 4 tackles, which was second on the team against Duquesne. You didn't see a lot from this defense in terms of individual effort. They wanted to get those guys in there for a little bit and then pulled them out right afterwards. But Bethune, he's going to be one of the top leaders for them. Expect big things out of him. And this is a pretty veteran linebacking core behind that interior D-line. So if they figure out the pass rush, I'm going to be pretty confident in this front 7 this year. We'll see what they can do in this game. Stat sheet stuffer at safety and Jamie Robinson. I like what he brings to the table. Akeem Dent's a former 5-star. Expected to kind of take that next leap. Sam McCall, he's a versatile physical DB. We'll see what he does here as a true freshman. Overall, I think the secondary, it's kind of inexperienced. I do like what they had last year in terms of playmaking from a lot of youth guys, but this is not an easy matchup by any means against this receiving core, so I think that youth might kind of have them in trouble in this game. We'll see what happens, but I do think, the pass rush is certainly going to take a step back, and that's not really going to help out your younger secondary, so I do think that this is a pretty big test for the secondary, and I don't think they match up too well. I think Kayshon Boutte, you're not going to be able to play this guy in man coverage in this game. You're going to get burned. I don't think Florida State has the personnel to play him there. We'll see what happens. We'll see what they draw up here. the playmaking, though, that's certainly a plus. And if they can carry that over into this game, then that's going to bring some more energy to this defense. But I do think this game, they're going to struggle quite a bit. Florida State will. I think over the course of the season, I think they'll progress. But, in this game, I think they're going to have their hands full. Look at the LSU defense. They added 9 transfers on this side of the ball, 6 in the secondary. It was one of the most banged-up units in all of college football last year. Everybody was beat up, it seemed like. They do lose Neil Farrell on the defensive line, but they're still one of the nation's best in terms of upside and overall talent. The interior is in great hands. Mason Smith, a former 5-star and impactful pass rusher, he had 4 sacks last year. Mainly played on the outside, but he's a hybrid guy who can play inside as well. Pair him up with Jacqueline Roy, who's a top 10 returner at his position. 6 tackles for loss last year. I think this offseason he spent more time getting conditioned. It's a big focal point because he has a great motor. It's only going to continue to get better. Big-time chaos creator. I love this interior. And you pair it up with Ali Gay, the length and leverage he showcases as a pass rusher with his flexibility and explosiveness. 6'6". This guy's got some size to him. 2.5 sacks in 4 games last year. He was unable to stay on the field. B.J. Ojulari, remember his brother Aziz was a star at Georgia. Expected a breakout season from him last fall, and that's what we got. Consistency's been a bit of an issue the first 2 years for him. I think he's really going to find that edge this season, though. High-end athleticism allows him to get around the corner. 7 sacks, double-figure tackle for loss. And also picked up Mekhi Wingo from Missouri. He's got a quick get-off and plays hard. So I think this front four, especially for this Florida State offensive line, we're really going to see how much they've progressed because this is a big-time matchup for them. This is one of the nation's top D-lines I'm absolutely in love with. And then I like what they have at linebacker, Mike Jones, and asset and coverage, which is good because they have these versatile running backs that, can do a lot of things. I think they might even put Treshaun Ward on a couple wheel routes. They'll do it with Douglas for sure. The new staff is impressed with him, though, and I think he should certainly thrive with Matt House as the defensive coordinator now. He was the linebackers coach for the Kansas City Chiefs the past couple seasons, so they're definitely going to, I think, do good things together. Micah Baskerville as well, speedy, sideline tackler. He had 83 stops last year. They also picked up 2 transfers that gives them some solid depth. These linebackers might have their hands full. We'll see what happens. I think the D-line's certainly going to have their way with the FSU O-line, but like I mentioned earlier, that option game, getting to the edge with Travis and Ward, it doesn't matter who you got. Those guys are going to be deadly, so it's going to be a big test for these linebackers. I think they'll be up for their challenge, but overall, I think they're certainly going to have their big moments on the ground because Ward, I'm just in love with his speed, and Travis as well. Very quick, good decision maker. So looking at the secondary, they lose Eli Ricks, but they make up for those 6 added transfers. None bigger than Jared Bernard-Converse coming over from Oklahoma State. He had 11 pass breakups. He was rock solid on his side of the field. Joe Faucha, highly productive safety from Arkansas. He had 74 tackles. Greg Brooks, a corner from Arkansas as well, comes over. Those are 2 former starters that move a state over. Mekhi Gardner comes over from Louisiana Lafayette. 3rd team all Sun Belt at corner. So these guys are starting to get really loaded up, and I think safety has a lot of upside. Major Burns, Sage Ryan, we'll see who gets the start at one spot. But Jay Ward, he's a versatile player who can play safety or corner, maybe a nickel option to replace Cordell Flott. I believe he also kind of transitioned into that position. He ended up being, I think, a 3rd-round draft pick. So Jay Ward, his skill set seems better suited for a safety position because he's a strong tackler. He's got some nice instincts. He's going to be occupying that other safety position. I think he's going to have a great game here. He's going to be very impactful. Overall, I think this LSU D-line, though, they're going to kind of control the tempo. They're going to slow down this FSU run game. That's going to be the biggest key for them. If they can't, then we'll see what happens. I think it'll be very interesting. The secondary's going to have to be – they're going to have to make more plays. They're going to have to come up a little bit more. They're going to have to be on their heels, too, because I don't want to get hit by some play action over top. So I think that if Florida State can win in the trenches, then this LSU defense could be, into a little bit of trouble, but I'm very interested to see how they play overall. Looking at the team comparisons, I think quarterback LSU has the edge, even though Jordan Travis really is not that bad. I think Jaden Daniels, though, with Mike Denbrock, I think he's going to be pretty good this year. Running backs, kind of a unanimous decision here. I mean, they had 3 guys have 100-plus yards last week. It just kind of shows you how versatile they are. But Treshaun Ward, I think he's the best running back in this game. The pass catchers, Florida State, they're pretty deep. Like alluded to earlier, I think Mike Norvell really likes what they got with those 3 transfers. But LSU, Keyshawn Boutte, one of the nation's best at his position, led by guys that were all freshmen last year that all made an impact. Versatile group, too. So I think both groups of pass catchers are really impressive. LSU has the edge. I think O-line's kind of even because LSU, they struggled against the pass last year. Florida State, they've struggled against everything. Struggled to protect the pass, rather, for LSU. But Florida State, they've struggled to protect everything over the last couple of years, and that theme isn't really going to change until we see improvement, which I think this year we'll start to see that kind of, undergo some change this fall. But for this game, no, not exactly. I think the D-line will overpower them. every edge for me for LSU on the defense. Great unit. I just talked about it extensively. The D-line, though, for Florida State is not too bad. I think they could really control some things as well and, force this running game to kind of bounce outside. I don't think that's really where they want to be. So the D-line for Florida State, don't underestimate them at all. Final thoughts and prediction. Florida State, I think the key for them is don't get blown back on the O-line. I just talked about it. This D-line for LSU is going to be nasty and aggressive. That's going to be a big key if they can start to overpower them in the trenches, and I think they'll have a good shot of winning this game. Kind of like Notre Dame last year. Remember early in that game, the Irish had their absolute way with this O-line, and then they started to churn it out there. I think they had it was a third drive of the game. They had a big running play for 80-plus yards, and then after that, they were just pretty good on the ground for the rest of the day. So, set the tone. I think that's the biggest thing for them. And again, don't play man versus booty. It's not going to work. Don't get beat by Florida State's vertical rushing attack for LSU. I think I've really talked about this very extensively during this episode, and I think they got to take advantage of some of the matchups in the passing game as well. Prediction for me, LSU 34, Florida State 24. This is basically a home game for them. I'll say it one more time. The D-line, I think they're going to be the difference maker against the Noles. Slow down that running game. Have some good pass catchers for Florida State. But this is a versatile secondary, a bunch of new adds, so I think they're going to kind of have that covered up. It's interesting to see how Johnny Wilson's used, being 6'7", 230. Maybe he'll be a red zone threat for them. The LSU passing game, though, should have a good day. Want to see something out of the running game, but not overly confident because, again, FSU has some beef in the middle. But 34-24 for me, I think this will be a pretty good game. Everyone's interested to see the new-look Brian Kelly team and how will Florida State do against top-notch competition, looking to kind of get a repeat of what they had last year when they opened up the season on a Sunday night. So that's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Very interested in watching this game come Sunday. That's going to be it for today's episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.